How's it going, Can Crushers? Welcome to another episode of the Crushing Cans Podcast Pick'em Show. Tonight, we're talking about UFC 252, DC versus Stipe Miocic 3. You ready to jump into it?
Let's get into this.
Awesome. Before we do that, we want to make sure to remind you guys to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell button down at the bottom so you know when we have new videos coming out.
Yeah, man.
All right, awesome. So the first fight of the night, this one is downtown TJ Brown versus Danny, the Colombian Warrior Chavez at 145 pounds. TJ Brown, he's an American. He's 14-7. He's 30 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall, and he's 0-1 in the UFC. He's coming off of a submission loss, round 2 submission loss to Jordan Griffin. And he's going against Danny Chavez, who's also an American. Danny Chavez is 10-3. He's 33 years old, 5 feet 8 inches tall, and he's making his UFC debut. Tell me what you think about these guys.
Well, with Brown, you know, you're talking about that loss to Griffin right there for a minute.
Yep.
He actually was dominating that entire fight.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that I saw with him is every time he took Griffin down, he kept leaving his head really low and then on the side just making it super easy for Griffin to get that choke. He attempted it like 3 times and then finally he got it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're going to keep giving the guy the head, why not just take it eventually, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, he's definitely a good grappler. You know, it's one of those things that I think he has some okay striking, but he's definitely going to be trying to get this one to the ground.
And, well, I didn't mention, though, he did also compete on the Contender Series. Mm-hmm. So in the Contender Series, he went out, he lost that first round of the fight. He was getting dominated pretty much in that one, but he was able to come back, and after that first little bit of adversity there, he came through and was able to dominate the fight and come back and win with a round 3 arm triangle in that fight. Like you said, he's definitely going to try to get it to the ground. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt right now, and he has 9 submissions on his record.
One of those submissions came over Peter Barrett, who fought last week.
Yep.
Who I could have swore Eustace Law was going to get him, but couldn't.
Yeah,
so.
Slippery Peter Barrett. And that was at Cage Titans. That was Cage Titan 36. So that was one of his 9 submissions. He does have 4 knockouts, and he has 1 decision win. But he is ultimately going to be looking to take it to the ground, which plays right into it perfect for him going against Danny Chavez. Danny Chavez has 7 decision wins. He has 3 knockouts, and he doesn't have a single submission win to his record.
No.
So Danny's not really going to be looking to go to the ground with him, I don't think, in this fight. I think he's really going to want to stand with him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be trying to keep this one standing.
Yeah. Danny Chavez.
It's a bad idea to go to the ground with TJ Brown. But in an interview, TJ Brown said he's not trying to go to the ground this fight. He said he wants to get back to his roots, stand and bang. He said he's going to let his hands go.
Well, we'll see. This is an exciting one. I don't think there's too much of a threat of a knockout here. You know, so
I don't either.
This is really a fight where if he is wanting to get back to the striking game, this is probably the one to do it. Chavez is the former Global FC 145-pound champion, but he's not really a big finisher.
Yeah.
So he's on a 3-fight win streak. That was his last 3 fights. So lately he has been a finisher. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, 7 decisions in a row.
And he did take all of 2019 off. Mm-hmm. He has, I think, 3 knockout wins in his last 3 fights, which is before that, like you said, all 7 were decisions.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know really what's going on there. But ultimately, you know.
Yeah, could have been some time working on those hands.
Could have been.
You know?
Could have been something going on. But, you know, I think that, you know, even though TJ vows to be standing in this one and letting his striking flow, I think he's still going to get back to his wrestling. If you watch all of his fights, he tends to go to his wrestling a lot.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to do that, and I've got TJ with a round 2 sub.
Ooh, that's awesome. I got TJ Brown with round 3 submission. Like you said, I think it's going to the ground. With a guy like TJ, I just think it's a matter of time before it gets to the ground.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's going to be a full-on standing fight. I think that, you know, the distance is going to get closed. It's going to get dragged to the ground. And we're going to see a good ground game there. And TJ Brown's going to submit him in round 3.
All right.
So that's the first fight of the night. Then we move on to the next one. This one I'm very excited for. This one is Herbert the Blaze Burns versus Daniel Pineda. Herbert Burns, he's 11-2. He's 32 years old. He's 5 feet 9 inches tall, and he is the brother of current UFC fighter Gilbert Burns, actually. He's also 2-0 in the UFC. His last fight was a first-round submission over Evan Dunham. He also competed on Dana White's Contender Series, where he won by round 1 arm triangle to Derek Minor, which was a pretty big feat because Derek Minor is a pretty good submission guy. He's another guy with a lot of submissions on his record that came in. He took Burns back early and looked to threaten to submit Burns, and Burns was able to fight out of that and then submit Minor still in the first round. So, that was an exciting introduction to Mr. Burns here for the UFC. I'm pretty excited about him.
Burns brothers are doing some big things, man.
Yeah, they look really good.
So,
but Daniel the Pit Pineda, he's a pretty good fighter too. He's an American. He's 26-13 with 2 no contests. It came from the PFL where he was fighting in a tournament. He won both of the fights, and then he ended up testing positive for a steroid, and those were changed to no contest. He's also starting his second run in the UFC right now.
Yep.
His first one was run. He went 3-4 in the UFC. This is his first fight back in the UFC. Looking to do big things. What do you think about these fighters?
Well, you touched on both of them good submission stuff. Burns, BJJ black belt. I think Pineda is a black belt as well.
Yes, he is.
But we've talked about that there's levels to this. Burns is at a higher level when it comes to the BJJ, in my opinion, based off what we've seen.
Yeah.
And his outside competition that he's done outside of MMA.
Yeah, I would say based on the outside competition, but you also have to remember, when you look at Daniel Pineda, he has 18 submissions himself.
He does have 18 submissions.
So it's going to be interesting. Like, both of these guys are very well versed, and it's going to be exciting to see the jiu-jitsu game play out. They're both fun strikers, too.
Yeah, so, Burns has a 5-fight win streak currently with 4 of those being finished in the first round and the other one being a second-round finish.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's looking to get it done and get it out of there. A lot of times, with some jits guys, you tend to see they don't use their jits until they get taken down or something like that. Burns is super offensive with his jits. He's looking to take you down and submit you.
He's going to be looking to get in and scrap with you and get you down to the ground. The one thing I am a little bit nervous about is he only has 2 decision wins. Going against a guy like Pineda, who's very experienced in the jiu-jitsu game as well, it's going to be hard to pick him to win by submission in the first round. Oftentimes with high-level jiu-jitsu guys, those matches can turn out to be 15, 20-minute matches where it's a fight for position. So this jiu-jitsu game could get negated in a five-minute round system to where potentially it works its way to a decision. Does Burns have the cardio to really go the distance? Neither of these guys are really big decision guys.
Well, if you look at Pineda, every single one of his wins have been finished.
Yeah.
He has
every single
18
one of them.
subs,
Yep.
8 knockouts.
Yep. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Ultimately, I have Burns picked to win by a decision.
Okay, see? So I think what's going to happen here is because Burns' stand-up is not bad either. Those Burns brothers, dude, they're extremely well-rounded.
Yeah.
He's not Gilbert, but his stand-up is not bad. And I think what's going to happen is I think you're going to see Burns rock him early in the first round. Pineda's a loose cannon on the feet, man. He goes for it.
He's wild.
He goes for it.
So I said fun striking.
So I think that Burns is going to rock him on the feet and then get it down and choke him out in the first round.
Wow. You think a first-round submission on
first
that one?
round submission.
I'm excited about that one. Burns, he competed in ONE FC beforehand. That's where most of his time was before coming to the UFC. That's where both of his losses came from. They were both decision losses. So 2 of the 4 times that he's actually gone to decision, he's lost.
And all of Pineda's times that he's gone to a decision, he's lost.
So it's going to be interesting, which is why I have Burns picked to win by decision. I don't know if the submission is going to win going to happen simply because of the experience. Pineda, he's fought in Bellator, Legacy FC. He's fought in LFA.
Been everywhere.
He's fought in PFL, Elite XC, everywhere, like you said. And he's got several other championships to his name. I'm not going to go through and name them all, but I'll just say, a couple of them. Legacy FC champion, Fury FC interim featherweight champion, and lightweight champion. He's been everywhere, done a lot of things, and his last submission win in the UFC was over Justin Lawrence, and that was a Submission of the Night award as well. So I'm not sure that the submission's going to come. I am very, very excited about it. It's going to be a fun fight. You have a first-round submission picked?
First-round submission for Burns,
awesome.
baby.
That'll be awesome. That'll be exciting. I got a decision picked. Then we move into the next fight. This one is Felice, the little bulldog Herrig. She's ranked number 15 in the UFC right now at 115 pounds versus Verna Jandiroba. This one's going to be pretty exciting as well. Felice Herrig, she's an American. She's 14-8. She is 35 years old. She's 5 feet 4 inches tall, and she's 5-3 in the UFC. But she is currently on a 2-fight losing streak. One of them was a decision loss to Michelle Waterson. The other one was a split decision loss to Carolina. She also has notable wins over Courtney Casey and Kaylin Curran. She's going against Verna, who's a Brazilian. She's 15-1, 32 years old, 5 feet 3 inches tall, and 1-1 in the UFC. She's coming off of a second round submission win over Mallory Martin. What do you think about these girls?
Yeah. So Verna, you said she's 15-1.
Yes.
12 of those 15 wins have all come by submission.
Submission, yes.
And she is a BJJ black belt.
Yes.
As you see a lot of times with a lot of the Brazilians currently in the UFC, most of them will have their black belt by the time they're there. She has some okay boxing. Not like a lot of volume essentially there, but her ground game is definitely where she wants to be.
Yeah.
The only thing that I saw with her is that a person with offensive wrestling can beat her. We saw that with Carla Esparza.
Yes.
Esparza was first to get the takedowns, and when she was getting her takedowns, she was getting on top and controlling and was able to negate all of Verna's submission attempts.
The way that she was able to control her is she did a really good job of keeping Verna's back flat to the mat.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't allow Verna to kind of work for angles and positions like that. And that was where she was able to really shut her down.
Yeah.
That was Carla Esparza's advantage in that fight. But that was still a fun fight to watch as far as the grappling exchanges back and forth. Verna was able to threaten with some things, and there were some spots where she looked like she was about to take a dominant position. But Esparza just overall was too dominant with the wrestling.
Too strong, too.
Yeah.
So, then you come in and you have a girl like Felice.
Yeah.
She's a professional kickboxer before she got into MMA.
Yep.
So her whole thing is the stand-up. And her nickname fits her well. She's a little pit bull when she gets in that cage and fights, man. The only thing is, she does have a purple belt in BJJ now.
Yes.
So she's becoming pretty well-rounded herself. But she, I think, if she can keep it standing, I think she'll have a very good chance to win. Because Verna's stand-up is not near the quality of Felice. The problem is I don't know that that's going to happen.
Felice has a little bit of a tendency. She also takes these fights to the ground herself.
Exactly.
But you have to think, she's lost 3 times in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
2 of the girls that she's lost to, Michelle Waterson. Michelle Waterson's a former Invicta champion. She's a title, top 5, top 10 girl. She sticks right around there somewhere. And then Carolina actually fought for a title as well.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not fighting, bottom-end girls. She spent a lot of time in the UFC fighting the top girls, and she actually came in with the top girls, the girls that are the top girls.
Through the Ultimate Fighter series.
Ultimate Fighter series. So the experience factor, I definitely think you would have to give to Felice Herrig. Mm-hmm. Like you said, she's got the Muay Thai and the striking and the kickboxing. She's 23-5 in kickboxing. She's the IKF United States Muay Thai champion and the 2-time IKF Open Tournament champion. She's also competed in Invicta and Bellator. You talked about the purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Most of her wins do come by decision.
Yeah, and it's funny though. She may be this great stand-up fighter, right?
Yeah.
She only just finished 1 fight by knockout in MMA.
She's only finished 1 by
knockout. She has 4 submission wins.
4 submission wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the striking, she has the edge in the striking. She's not somebody, but you see that a lot with a lot of the smaller girls. There's not a lot of knockout power there. Mm-hmm. You see it with the smaller guys as well. Like, they talk about 125, 135. They're not really knocking a ton of people out unless you're Figueiredo, and then you're knocking everybody dead. But there's not a lot of knockouts in those lower weight classes, so you do tend to get more decisions. And the way that Herrig wins is by being that little bulldog, outstriking them, getting right in their face, and putting so much pressure on them on the feet that they can't do anything.
Yeah.
She also does a pretty good job of controlling it up against the cage. I think that if she's going to win this fight, that's where she needs to control. She needs to control the striking, and she needs to control the cage.
Similar to what we saw with Yana last week.
Yeah. But she does need to be careful, though, because with Verna and her jiu-jitsu background, you pressure her up against the cage, she can start climbing up the cage and pulling guard.
Yeah, it's similar to what we saw with Yulia in that Yana fight. It's going to be a very identical match, I think.
Yeah. The only difference here, though, Verna does have some judo.
She does have judo.
So with Felice pressuring in, she may set herself up to get thrown to her back. You have to be careful pressuring in against a judo person. Verna is a former Invicta champion. She did successfully defend it one time. But ultimately, I have Felice Herrig winning by decision.
Yeah, so with me, I don't see anybody getting finished in this fight.
Yeah.
Felice, all 8 of her losses have come by decision. So I think that's important to note too. Not saying she can't be finished. I think, she's a pit bull in there and it's hard to finish her, whether it's on the ground or the feet. But I do think that this fight will get taken down, and I do think that Verna's going to control the majority of the ground game when it gets down there. And I have Verna winning a decision.
So you have Verna winning a decision. You think that she'll be able to get her to the ground fast then?
I think she's going to get it down enough to win 2 rounds.
All right. So she's got to be able to get her down for at least 2.5 minutes. Well, depending on the damage she does down there.
That, and then the refs, and depending on how she looks on her feet too.
That is true.
I mean, there's a lot of factors that can play into this.
She's not very good on her feet, so I have no faith in her feet.
Yeah, I don't have faith in her feet either.
Yeah.
I think she's going to wing it, get in there, get the takedown, and just try to tap her out, but she's not going to be successful doing it.
We'll see what happens there. So if you guys need to go take a bathroom break or go take a quick nap, the next fight's probably the one to do it in. This one is Chris Dawkis. I shouldn't say that. It makes me sound like a dick.
No, you're good. You hate fat heavyweights. And both these guys are fat heavyweights.
Yeah.
They're not like think about this. Parker Porter used to be a 205er, and now who was that guy that fought like 2 weeks ago that was a middleweight and ballooned up weight in 265? Collier, yeah. Just like that, dude. Yeah. He was a 205er. He fought John Jones at 205 early in John Jones' career. On. John Jones knocked him out in 38 seconds, but he used to be in shape. And now look at him.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about these guys real quick. You got Chris Dawkis versus Parker Porter at 265 pounds. Chris Dawkis, he's an American. He's 8-3. He's 30 years old. He's 6 feet 2 inches tall, and he's making his UFC debut. He is currently coming in on a 1-fight win streak with the first round knockout win in his last fight. He's fighting Parker Porter, as we just said. Parker Porter's an American. He's 10-5, 35 years old. So this is his last shot at the UFC. He's 6 feet tall. He's on a 2-fight win streak, and this is his UFC debut. As you can tell, we're not super excited about this fight. This isn't something that we're super excited about. This isn't a Tanner Boser fight. This isn't an Andrei Arlovsky fight.
No.
This isn't one of those these nimble little guy or these nimbler bigger guys that move around well. These are a couple of bigger guys that they're gonna swing. I'm not super excited about them overall.
Dawkis actually moves pretty decently for his size.
He's a taller guy. He is also a cop though, Dawkis.
He's a police officer, but he stays a little light on his feet for a guy weighing in at about 264 pounds.
He's definitely gonna be in the better shape of the two. He's going to be the better athlete of the two. He has 6 knockouts of his own. He has 1 submission and 1 decision win.
Which is weird because both these guys come from jits gyms.
Yeah.
But that's the heavyweights for you, I guess.
Yeah, but watching both their videos, I'm not super impressed with either of their striking. I'm not really super impressed with either of these guys overall at all.
No.
We'll see. I could be wrong. They could come out and put on a fight of the night performance. This just isn't one for me that I'm super excited about. Parker Porter has competed in Bellator. He's got 4 knockouts and he's got 4 submissions and 2 decisions. So he is well-rounded. He can get the submissions on the ground. He can knock you out on the feet. Not the most exciting fighter for me unless you're really only looking for the knockouts.
No.
He was the former reality fighting 265-pound champ. But ultimately in this fight, I'm predicting a fast fight. I'm going with Chris Dawkis to knock him out in round 1.
All right, so you guys probably remember the name Dawkis because his brother Kyle Dawkis fought just a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a few weeks ago. It might have been that, but he fought. That was a fun fight too. You and I really liked that. I did like watching some of the videos on Dawkis because if you watch him and his brother training at their gym and kind of that whole story with him and his brother is a pretty cool story.
I like that. I like how they play on that.
I think it was CFF or CFF, CEMM, I don't know. One of those organizations where they were both fighting at the same time. Put together some pretty cool promo videos for him.
CFFC or something like that, I think is what it was.
But either way, I think I'm not. So Porter's the favorite here too, by the way. He's like a minus 150 favorite with Dawkis as a plus 125 dog. I'm not sure what people are seeing to really make Porter the favorite. I don't know.
I'm not.
Maybe it's just the fact that he fought Gab Gonzaga and got tapped out, or the fact that
you always call him Gab.
Yeah.
Every time.
Because it's Gabriel Gonzaga.
It's not, Gabriel.
So either way.
Gabriel Gonzaga, Gabe Gonzaga, Gab Gonzaga.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, sorry. You just do that every time you talk about him.
Anyway, so he fought him and got tapped out.
Yeah.
And then he, before that he fought John Jones and got knocked out. So maybe they're just saying, oh, he's fought better fighters.
Yeah.
But he's not looked good against either of them.
Recently in Bellator. And
he's not looked good against any of the good fighters he's fought. So, but who knows? I mean, to me, it's a pick'em fight.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be whoever can land that overhand right first.
Potentially,
and,
whoever can land the big punch first.
Yeah. And, well, that's Porter's. His go-to is an overhand right. And then if you look at Dawkis, he has a good left jab that he uses to lead in, and then he'll throw a tight right. But I think that it's going to be whoever lands that right hand first. And I think Dawkis is going to be the one to do it in the first round.
All right, so we got Dawkis first round. We got a perfect pick for
Yeah, buddy.
All right, so then we move on to
Might have to change that after your card last week. I don't know if I want to pick the same as you.
Yeah, right. Look at the one we had before that.
I know, right?
So then we go into the next fight. This one is Ashley the Spider Monkey Yoder versus the Brazilian Gangsta Lavina Souza at 115 pounds. Ashley Yoder, she's an American. She's 7-5. She's 32 years old, and she's 5 feet 7 inches tall, and she's 2-4 in the UFC. Currently coming off of a split decision loss to Randa Marcos. And she's going against Lavina Souza, who's from Brazil. She's 13-2, 29 years old, and she's 5 feet 3 inches tall. And she's 2-1 in the UFC, and she's coming off of a decision loss herself to Brianna Van Buren. Tell me what you think about these girls.
All right, so instantly, we're looking at this, and Souza is the minus 155 favorite. Yoder's a plus 130 dog. I can see why, and I'll tell you. So Yoder here, she has a Team Quest fighter.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool, even though I think it's Team Quest California is the one she's fighting out of.
Yeah, they're associated.
But it's Team Quest. It all started here in the Northwest. She's a late bloomer in MMA. She didn't really start training until she was like almost 20 or something like that. And it was after, I think, her cousin died or something like that.
It was a couple years after that.
Yeah. She had some deaths in the family that just kind of hit her hard, and so she found MMA and got into it.
Her brother died, and then a couple years later,
her cousin
died, and then she
got into MMA.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's a rough couple years right there, man. And so I can see she found her outlet.
Yeah.
And so she got into MMA, and she's been working, man. Which she's 32 now.
32.
And she's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so she's been progressing and getting better, which is what you want to see from somebody getting into MMA, right?
Absolutely.
She's not like a lot of these other people with brown belts right now that have been doing it since they were kids.
Yeah.
So she's doing something right there. I don't feel like she's really great anywhere. She's kind of just okay everywhere. Her feet are kind of okay. She likes to move forward a lot and swing, and she's going to throw pretty much everything she has at you. She'll throw her fists, elbows, knees, kicks, and it looks awkward doing it, but she does it to get in.
But she's doing stuff.
She's trying to get in and get the takedown.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that she's going to want to do that against Souza.
Yeah. Well, so with Yoder, she did try out for Tough 20. She didn't make the cut.
And then tried out again.
Then she tried out again. Now here she is. She's got 4 submissions to her record now. She has 4 decisions now. She's competed in Bama and Invicta. and she's in the UFC. She's got 6 fights total in the UFC at this point. And while it does say 4 losses, those fights, some of those losses have been closer than they look. You know,
Right.
when you look at the L on the record, it doesn't really tell the whole story of the fight. Like that Ronda Marcos fight that she just had, where she lost by split decision, that very well could have been her fight. That was a very good, scrappy fight back and forth. And there was kind of a lot of wild positions going on in that fight. Could have gone either way in that one. And that was the way that a couple of her other fights were. She's not that four losses isn't really accurate.
Very
indicative. Indicative of her skills.
So
Or of her ability. But Souza is a monster. I like watching Souza fight. She's got a bulldog mentality. She in her UFC time so far, she beat Sarah Froda by decision, and she also submitted Alexis Chambers by guillotine in round 1. She has 8 submissions to her record, and she has 3 decisions and 2 knockouts. She's also the former Invicta strawweight champion. She defended that once. She's the Talent MMA circuit champion, the Costa Combat champion, and the Predator flyweight champion. Ultimately, though, I just think that Souza is just going to be a little bit more tough, and I think she's probably going to be a little bit more technical, and I think that that's going to give her the edge here, and I think that she's going to end up winning a decision.
Yeah, so for me with Souza, man, what I saw with her striking, though, was not very impressive. She's kind of really hesitant, it seems to throw. I mean, even if you watch the Van Buren fight, Van Buren was just all over her, and she still didn't want to throw back. It was really weird. But when she does throw, she'll throw a couple things there, and then she'll stop throwing for a little while. So I think if she's gonna on the feet, she needs to have more volume. But if Yoder can keep it standing, I think she might have a good chance. It's like the fight earlier. I just don't think that's gonna happen. I think Yoder's actually going to try to do what she does, and she's going to try to take Souza down. That's going to cost her the fight because Souza's going to tap her out in the second round if she does that. Yeah. And that's what I have as a Souza, round 2 submission.
All right, Souza round 2 submission. I have Souza by decision. Awesome. We move on to the featured fight for the undercard. This one is Jim A-10 Miller versus Vince Pichelle at 155 pounds. Jim Miller's been around for a while. He's the American. He's 32-14. He's 36 years old, 5 feet 8 inches tall, 21-13 in the UFC. He made his UFC debut back in 2010 with the submission win over David Barron. And he's going against Vince Pichelle, who's an American, 12-2, 37 years old, 5 feet 10 inches tall, and 5-2 in the UFC. That is not including his time on The Ultimate Fighter. He was on season 15, actually, which was the only live season, and he went 3-1 on that show. What do you think about these guys?
Well, you know how we feel about Jim Miller here. He's been in the UFC a very long time. We've talked about him before. BJJ black belt, one of the most dangerous grapplers in the UFC, if not MMA. Yep. So there's not really much to go on about Jim Miller because we could really talk about his accomplishments and what he's done and where he's at all day. But he's kind of been reduced to a gatekeeper as of late at this stage in his career. Now he's fighting Pichelle, who is fighting for the first time after having hip surgery.
Yes,
I think that's important to note because that could come into play.
Especially in a match with the guy where your hips are going to be really important.
Yeah.
So Jim Miller's going to wrestle you. We know what he's going to do. He's going to come in and try to take you down. Now, if you're a guy with bad hips are very important in defending and stopping a shot. Yeah. So that could have a big effect depending on how
it's not like Pichelle's a spring chicken,
No, he's 37 years old.
So that hip surgery could very well. It's not like you're 22 coming off a hip surgery or an ACL or something, or it's just one of those things. You're older, the surgeries they're gonna play. Yeah. They're gonna play on you. So yeah. For me, it's another one of those guys that he was a late bloomer in MMA as well. Yeah. He kind of, dropped out of school, I think, at like 15, got into drugs for 5 years, and then finally, once he got clean, one of his friends got him into MMA, and he's been doing that ever since. So, he's turned it into a pretty solid career.
Yeah,
after
a lot of people who've come from rough backgrounds have used MMA to turn their life around. It's pretty awesome.
I like the stories from that.
Yeah, definitely.
As long as they're staying clean, man.
But, I think that they made this fight at the perfect time for both of these guys. They're both getting up there in age, 36 and 37. Both of them, while they have impressive records in the UFC, had a little bit of adversity recently, and then both of them have the same win in their last fight.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Jim Miller, he fought Roosevelt Roberts and submitted him in round 1 in his last fight by armbar.
Yep.
That's also the same person that Vince Pichelle fought in his last fight, and he won by decision. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things kind of play into this where this fight just kind of seems to make sense right now.
Yeah.
As far as title implications, not a lot of title implications on it, but for, fighters to fill a card and exciting fights and things like that, names on there, this is a good one to put on there.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this one. Both guys have a lot of significant wins. Like, if you look at Jim Miller, I'll just list off a few here. Joe Lazon, Thiago Alves, Takanori Gomi, and
Dwayne
Bane Ludwig. If you know who TJ Dillashaw is, you know who Dwayne Ludwig is. Dwayne Ludwig is credited with his striking.
Missed storyline there, too, because it drives me nuts how the UFC missed out on that whole opportunity between a fight with TJ and Faber.
They screwed it.
Because Conor called him out on the Ultimate Fighter, and then, Faber had TJ's back during that whole time, and then all of a sudden, literally right after that, I'm moving to Dwayne's camp, and then Conor's like, I told you, and they missed this whole opportunity.
And the only reason Conor knew though is because they tried to poach Conor themselves.
Yeah,
Conor's like, no, I'm not going. I'm loyal to my team. But so that happened. But Jim Miller, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has 18 submission wins. Former D1 wrestler, 10 decisions, and 4 knockouts. So Jim Miller, we know, not going to try to finish and not trying to knock anybody out.
No.
He's going to be looking to wrestle you and take you down. He's either going to try to grind out a decision or submit you. And that might be hard on Pichelle's hips. But Pichelle himself has a couple of good wins as well. Mm-hmm. He has Joaquim Silva, who's been making a lot of noise lately, and Anthony Njokuani.
Right.
He also has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. So there are levels. We talk about that a lot. He doesn't have a ton of submissions. He only has 2 submissions. He has 8 knockouts, and he has 5 decisions. It's going to be interesting to see how this does because I feel like he's probably been a little bit more successful in the last couple of years than Jim Miller has been. What do you think overall? Who do you think is going to win this one?
So, for me, while Pichelle's turned into a pretty solid fighter, I just don't think he's anywhere near the level of Jim Miller. So I think that Jim Miller's actually going to come in here. I think he's going to have a very comfortable night. He's going to finish this with a round 1 submission.
All right. Well, I was really looking forward to seeing what goes on here. Jim Miller, he struggled a little bit, but I think that this is the perfect fight for him to get back in the win column. Like we talked about with the ground game, I think that he's just going to be able to take him down. I think he's going to grind out a decision. I don't see a submission coming. We'll find out, though, here.
Yep.
It's going to be fun. Then we move on to the next one. This one's the first fight on the main card. This is number 14 ranked Magomed Ankalaev versus Ion the Hulk Cutelaba at 205 pounds. I'm pretty excited about this fight.
It's a rematch.
This is a rematch.
After some bullshit.
So their last fight, they go out there. They start slugging it out. They're about 28 seconds into the fight.
And Ankalaev
in the middle of a slug.
landing.
In the middle of a slugfest, they're both throwing. And Cutelaba did get hit with something, and he stumbled a little bit, but he wasn't out.
No.
And he stumbled, and he kept.
But it was
throwing.
over and over. So what happened really is Ankalaev landed a head kick, and Cutelaba kind of played it off and was going like this, and it looked like he was just trying to bait him in.
Yeah.
And then he landed another head kick. Then he landed a punch, and Cutelaba kept doing this every time he got punched.
But he was throwing back himself,
he
though.
was throwing back.
It wasn't like he was getting hit and rocked.
He was making it look like it, though, and he was trying to bait Ankalaev to get in even closer so he could land his counter shot. But Ankalaev wasn't having it. But every time he got hit, he kept doing this thing where it looked like he was getting rocked.
I think he was stumbled. I think he was stumbled from the kicks. I don't think that it was near enough to justify a stoppage.
No, and if you look at the stoppage, as soon as Kevin stopped that, he went in there to stop it, and Kudalaba's like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Yeah.
And like and I think if you listen to the audio, you can hear Bisbing talking about, "Oh, I think he's just trying to bait him in."
Yeah,
I think it was Bisbing.
He could have potentially, but when you get hit with head kicks like that, they do hurt.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that the ref's stoppage was good because it was one of the worst stoppages.
It was a bad stoppage. Pretty bad stoppage.
One of the worst stoppages I've ever seen. And I'm a guy who's in favor of early stoppages as opposed to late stoppages. This was a absolutely ridiculous stoppage. Yeah. And the ref actually on that one, that was Kevin McDonald.
Yep.
And he stopped the fight way too early. It was a horrible stoppage. But we get to run it back.
Yeah, we're running it back. And I mean, to Kevin's credit, like I said, every time Kudalaba got hit, he would pretend like it would look like he was trying to pretend that he was rocked.
Yeah.
And it just kept hitting over and over. And after 3 or 4 times of that, I can see why Kevin jumped in there. But
I mean, even then, I can't see why he would have jumped in.
It was still a bad stoppage.
Just because he was still firing for a leg.
Yeah,
not for a leg.
No, he was throwing punches.
He was throwing punches. But if I'm on the ground and I'm getting hit with some punches and I'm trying to grab a leg and work up, they'll let me take the punches as long as I keep working up. But at the point that I start and I stop covering up like this, and I stop defending, and I stop trying to improve my position, that's when they stop the fight. Yeah. They don't stop the fight when you're covering here and reaching for a leg and trying to climb up the body and advance your position, even though you're getting hit with punches. So in this situation, he might have gotten hit with a head kick. He might have gotten hit with 2 head kicks. But he was still throwing himself. Yeah. He was still marching forward. Yeah. He didn't even take a step back, really. He just kind of wiggled a little bit.
The whole point of the thing is if you're Kudalaba, you didn't help yourself at all by doing those antics.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing it off on all those ones and it costs you, a lesson learned to you. Still a bullcrap stoppage. Doesn't justify the stoppage whatsoever at all. But let's jump into the fighters here. Magomed Ankalaev, he's Russian, 13-1, 28 years old, 6 feet 3 inches tall. He's 4-1 in the UFC, including that knockout win over Ian Kudalaba. He is the WFCA 205-pound champion, Akhmat Fight Show 205-pound champion. He is also international sports master international master of sport in combat sambo. Whereas Kudalaba, he competed in Greco-Roman wrestling. He is a sambo national champion and a judo national champion. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to see how their sambo and stuff kind of plays out with each other.
Yeah, if we get it going a little bit, so, you touched on it a little bit. So Kudalaba he started training Greco-Roman wrestling at a really young age. And then he ended up winning the European Combat Sambo gold medal. So he does have that. And to me, when I'm looking at both of these guys, you have Ankalaev, who didn't really start doing combat sambo wrestling until he got to the university in Dagestan. Yep. So that's where he started getting into his.
If you look at Ankalaev when he fights a lot, he tends to have a little bit better striking.
His striking is clean.
It's not the sambo on the ground typically, but he does have it.
Yeah. But when I look at both of these guys and you kind of watch their fights, I feel like Ankalaev is just a better version of Kudalaba. They're essentially the same fighter, but I think Ankalaev just looks like Kudalaba 2.0. So, and it makes sense to put these guys up against each other with their combat sambo and then their Greco-Roman wrestling backgrounds and everything like that. So, with all the controversy in that first fight, you got anything to add before I get into my pick?
Yeah, I mean, I would say overall, Ankalaev has had a much better UFC career so far. The biggest win, I feel like, for Kudalaba is his Khalil Roundtree knockout. I feel like that's his best win. Kudalaba does have 12 knockouts. He has 2 submissions and 1 decision. So it is going to be a fight where they're looking to finish. Because if you look over at Ankalaev, it's similar. He has 7 knockouts, 5 decisions and 1 submission. So if it goes to the distance, Ankalaev's probably going to have that in his favor, especially with the way that Kudalaba likes to start. He wants to get in a fight fast.
Well, yeah, and did you see in that first fight before the bell even rang when they were announcing the fighters, Kudalaba just walked across the cage. Yeah, and nobody stopped him.
Well, he went like this. He walked across and he got in his face and went like this, and then Anklov underhooks.
Double underhooks instantly.
And body locks him, and they pull him apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't going to do anything, but he was just trying to be a showman.
But to start, I mean, they should have kind of at least stopped him before he got there.
Yeah, it should be like, you got to stop in the middle.
We're going to fight here in like 30 seconds, you know, just wait. Yeah. You want to show him from across the cage, and then go do it.
Yeah, you'll have a camera up close in there, but you know, maybe if I get in their face, it'll make the media.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe everybody gives that comparison. You know, they got the same background essentially here with the combat sports sambo and the Greco-Roman wrestling, and for some reason it's like you remember when Nate Diaz called out Conor McGregor? You're taking everything that I've worked for, mother effer. Okay, and maybe he kind of feels that way, so he kind of has this like negative energy towards Anklov. I don't know.
Well, Anklov's got a better overall record, I feel like, in the UFC. I feel like he's fought the better fighters and come out on top.
He's performed better.
So yeah. Overall, though, I think that Anklov is going to get the knockout again. I think that this is going to be a fast, in-your-face fight. They're both going to be there slugging. I think Ankelov's going to knock him out this time in round 2, though.
Yeah. So see,
I think it will be a real knockout this time.
Yeah. So you know how you just said it's going to be a fast, in-your-face fight, right? I agree. Only this time, I think Ankelov's going to emphatically knock him out and put a stamp on it.
Have that exclamation point.
Yeah, he's just gonna knock him out cold. It's going to be an emphatic knockout. And it's going to be in the round 1, though, because like you said, they're going to come out banging. And Ankelov's just so precise with his striking. I think he's going to land another head kick like he's done.
He does get a little wild, though.
We'll see.
He gets a little off balance and wild. And I think that that's the reason that his kicks didn't knock him out last time, is he was a little off position. He was a little off balance. So
it's going to be a fun fight, but either way, we both got Ankelov by knockout.
Yeah, buddy. So then we move on to the next fight. This one is John the Magician Dodson versus Marib the Machine Devolishvili. John Dodson, he's ranked number 12. He's the American. He's 21-11. He's 35 years old, 5 feet 3 inches tall, 1 inch shorter than me. He's 10-6 in the UFC, and he's currently on a 1-fight win streak with an impressive 3rd-round knockout over Nathaniel Wood. That was a really fun, exciting fight. I was kind of falling off the John Dodson train. That fight really made me excited to watch him fight some more in the future. But then he's fighting Marib Devolishvili from Georgia. He's 11-4, 29 years old, 5 feet 6 inches tall, and he's 4-2 in the UFC. He's currently on a 4-fight win streak. All of them are by decision. One of them was a loss to Ricky Simone. Let's just talk about that
guy,
one.
Ricky.
Let's just get that one out of the way because you know we're talking about that one. So Marib was winning that fight.
Absolutely. He was actually out wrestling Ricky.
He probably took 1, 2, and 3. All 3 scorecards, out wrestled Ricky. Honestly, it really wasn't super close. I think that each round was definitive for Marib. There wasn't a ton of damage being done, but it was a grappling match. It was a wrestling match, and Marib was winning it. Then, with like 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, it might have been less than that left, Marib shoots in, and Ricky locks in a guillotine. Ricky Simone locks in this guillotine. He holds it, flips him over. Marib's like kicking his feet. His feet are just in the background, just kicking, looking like he's swimming.
He's trying to make it. What he was doing was he was trying to show the ref that I'm not out. The only problem is
maybe it was just instinct though, right? Because you sometimes when people get knocked out, they twitch. Some people when they get submitted or when they get choked out, they twitch too.
Right,
like,
but he wasn't out yet when he started kicking. He started kicking instantly.
Well, the problem that we had is that his eyes were open.
So,
and that's what made everybody think that he was still awake, is that his eyes were open. But even afterwards, so the bell rings.
That's where the problem comes in, is after the bell rings, his legs were still kicking.
Still kicking. Ricky Simone stands up above him. He's out. He's out. Points down at him. Yep. Tells the ref he's out. And the ref looks. He's signaling the fight's off. We're not sure what happens until they announce.
It looked like the ref just called the fight because the decision.
Because you heard that last bell. So it looked like that. They bring him out to the center, and we're like, I don't know. Did they call him? Did they call it? Because he was out. Yeah. And then there was the debate by everybody. He wasn't out. His eyes were open. He was kicking his feet. Well, I've been choked out, and I had like a little mini seizure where I choked out cold, and I was twitching and freaking out everywhere, and foam started coming out of my mouth. I had another buddy who got choked out by a guillotine, and his arm was off to the side flapping like this. And we thought he was tapping out, but he was just choked out.
Yeah.
And his arm was flapping. So sometimes when you do get submitted, there are things that happen when you get choked unconscious, you get knocked out. Your body does some stuff sometimes that you don't have control of. It doesn't mean that you're still awake. It doesn't mean that you're still conscious. And this just happened to be that situation there. So Marib won 15 minutes of a fight, 14 minutes and 45 seconds of a fight.
Hail Mary.
And then it's exactly what it was. It was that Hail Mary, right? So that ended up costing him that fight there. So realistically, you want to see how he's done. You can compare him overall in those last 5 fights, and he looked good in all 5 of them.
Yeah. I mean, he essentially won all 5 of them.
All 5 of those. He won them.
Essentially,
yeah. So that scorecard might say that he didn't, but you know what? It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a good fight.
And then his other loss, though, was a split decision loss. Mm-hmm. So he fought Frankie Saenz, who didn't look so good in his last fight, but he lost that one by a split decision. That's his other loss in the UFC. So he's looked in his entire career in the UFC, he's looked pretty good. Marib is a monster. Before coming to the UFC, he was the Ring of Combat 135-pound champion, and he's a black belt in judo. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else you want to say about these? I didn't really jump on Dodson yet.
But... Yeah, I mean, you're good. I mean, I could talk about Dodson for a little bit here because, he was the very first bantamweight winner of The Ultimate Fighter.
Yep.
After The Ultimate Fighter, I think he had to fight at 135 and then ended up dropping down to 125, where he won a couple fights, fought Mighty Mouse for the title.
Yep.
Lost. Went on to win a few more fights. Fought Mighty Mouse again and lost.
Now, before that, though, who did he beat in the finals on The Ultimate Fighter?
I don't remember.
T.J. Dillashaw. He beat T.J. Dillashaw to win The Ultimate Fighter.
There you go.
So that was a huge win for him. T.J. Dillashaw went on to be a 135-pound champion. A lot of people have him in talks as potentially being maybe one of the GOATs. 135 is so talent stacked right now, and the competition's so close that there's 3 or 4 names out there in competition for GOAT right now, 135.
Yeah. And then so after that, he ended up going back up to 135, where he's kind of had an up and down career ever since.
Yeah.
He'll win, lose, something kind of like that.
And he's getting up there a little bit in age right now. He's 35 years old now. So he's 35, 21-11, 10-6 in the UFC. So he's up there. But that last fight against Nathaniel Wood, he looked good.
It was a fun fight, man.
Nathaniel Wood's a guy that I'm pretty big on right now. I think that Nathaniel Wood's going to be around the UFC for a long time. I think he's going to be exciting for the UFC for a long time. I thought that he was going to win that fight against John Dodson.
So did I.
Dodson and him, they had a very close fight.
I think he was winning up until that finish.
I don't know.
It might have been 1-1 maybe.
I think it was probably 1-1. It was a close fight. Dodson looked really good. He looked much better than I had anticipated him looking. It was a much closer fight. Overall, though.
Dodson does contain a ton of power for a 135er.
Yeah, he's got 10 knockouts.
Yeah.
10 knockouts, but he also has 9 decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He's been around MMA for a long time. He's also one of the guys that helps coach over there at the Jackson Winklejohn team camp. So he's very knowledgeable in the sport. Not just in the fighter aspect, but on the detail aspect and the coaching aspect. So he's kind of got a jack of all trades in MMA right there.
Yeah.
With what he can do. It's pretty exciting to see.
It's going to be a classic grappler versus striker matchup.
I'm really excited about this one. This is going to be a fun one, but you have to pick a winner, and ultimately, I think that Devolishvili takes another decision.
Yep. He's never been knocked out either, so I don't see Dodson knocking him out.
No.
He's going to win a decision is what I have too, because I think his only losses have come by submission, or a couple of his losses, I think, for Marib were by submission, but I don't see John Dodson tapping him out. So.
No, I don't think that'll happen.
No.
That and that one by submission to Ricky Simone, not really a submission.
Yeah. So I mean, if we look at this, really, it's going to be another Marib decision. He's not a big finisher.
No.
I think the last 4 wins he has have all been by decision. So.
Yep. And most of them 8 decision wins.
Yeah, he's just going to come in, grind it out, and get another decision win.
Awesome.
Although he does train under Matt Serra, so maybe he's adding some tools to his belt. I don't know.
That is true. Now we move on to the next fight. This fight is Junior Dos Santos versus Giarzino Rosenstrok at 265 pounds. Both guys are ranked in the top 10. Junior Dos Santos, he's ranked number 5. Rosenstrok, he's ranked number 6. You got number 5 versus number 6 going at it right now. This is a pretty exciting fight. You have the former champion in Junior Dos Santos from Brazil. He's 21-7. He's 36 years old, and he's 6 feet 4 inches tall. Like I said, former champion. He beat Cain Velasquez to win the belt, and he successfully defended it against Frank Mir with a round 2 knockout, and then he lost it to Cain Velasquez, and he's been on the hunt for another title since then. Mm-hmm. He's going against Rosenstrok, who's from Suriname, South America. He's 10-1, 32 years old, 6 feet 4 inches tall, and 4-1 in the UFC. He's coming off of a loss to Francis Ngannou, who he actually called out Ngannou, and not a lot of guys are calling him out. And when he calls him out, he says, "I want to fight that big scary monster, Francis Ngannou."
Yep.
Well, he fought him, and it didn't go so well. But overall, outside of that, his other 4 wins in the UFC have all come by knockout. What do you think about these guys?
So, with JDS, he is a BJJ black belt, another Jits guy from Brazil.
Yep.
But what's crazy about him is he only has 1 submission victory.
Yeah, well, it's because he's also a boxer.
And he knocks people out. So that's what people are going to know him for, is his knockout power, his boxing. He is coming off back-to-back losses, too, and one of those to Francis Ngannou as well.
Yep.
And Curtis Blades. I think both of them knocked him out. So he's coming off 2 knockout losses.
Yes.
So I think that's gonna play into it. He's getting a little older. It's getting to the later part of his career. So,
well,
heavyweights.
In the way that he fights, in the way that the heavyweight division is for the most part, these guys are all headhunters.
Exactly.
There's very few guys out there that are looking to submit guys all the time. Like there's, Frank Mir was one of the few guys that was really looking to submit guys. Even the Nogueira brothers, while they do submit guys, like they're still looking to try to knock you out.
Roy
first.
Nelson's a perfect example of that too.
Roy Nelson, this has been a division where there's guys that have the ability to do stuff on the ground, but they just love to swing.
Yeah. Now I think with JDS, his problem is he's running into another knockout artist in this fight.
Yeah.
Giarzino is coming off a knockout loss to Ngannou, like you said.
Yes.
And he is only 11-1 in MMA, but he was 76-8 in kickboxing, with 64 knockouts. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he's a rookie in combat sports here.
Nope. And he's in the perfect division for it because they want to stand and bang. Mm-hmm. And so you think, we talk about knockouts. If I was to tell you that JDS had 13 knockouts, you would be like, wow, that's a lot of knockouts.
Yeah.
That's a lot of knockouts. And it's true. Junior Dos Santos does have 13 knockouts. Mm-hmm. But like you just said, 64 knockouts. And that's just kickboxing.
That's just kickboxing. See, he has 9 knockouts in MMA.
So, I mean, you look at that, 73 total knockouts.
Yeah, the guy's a beast.
So, going against the guy known as a knockout artist with 13 knockouts.
Yeah. So
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, both these guys are going to be looking for the finish here.
Yeah.
And to me, someone is definitely going to sleep in this fight.
Well, the one big thing that I did see as a whole, though, is when he fought, when Rosenstrok fought Overeem, it was a 5-round fight. If it was a 3-round fight, he lost that fight. He lost all 4 rounds going into that 5th round. He was getting out-grappled. Mm-hmm. Now, if Junior Dos Santos was to change up his mindset and say, hey, I'm going to take him to the ground this time, I know I usually don't, but that's going to be a huge advantage for him, and especially in a 3-round fight. Rosenstrok did not show any knowledge of the ground, any desire to get up or anything. Like, he just looked flat. So if JDS is to win this fight, I think he has to get it down to the ground.
Yeah, I just don't see him going to the ground in this one. I don't know.
Neither do I.
He does not like to go to the ground. When Stipe took him down, he hated it.
Yep.
So, I mean, like I said, I think someone is definitely going to sleep in this fight, and I think it's going to happen in the 1st round, and I think JDS is the one that's going to sleep in this fight.
I think you're right. Look at that.
So I've got Rosenstrok knockout round 1. We've got a few of them that are perfectly picked the same. This one. This is okay.
Yeah, this is going to be a very tight card.
It should be. I mean, we've only got a couple that are opposite, and then the ones that we do have the same are the same. So.
Pretty much. So then we move on to the next one. This one was a little bit harder for me to pick. This one was Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera at 135 pounds. Sean O'Malley, he's ranked 14th. It's a given ranked right now just because he's building a name. He hasn't really beaten anybody yet worth giving him a ranking. Personally, before we even get into all the stuff, Marlon Vera's beaten better competition.
And that Eddie Wineland knockout, though, was pristine. It was so pretty.
Sean O'Malley's got some cool knockouts.
Yeah, he's got some cool knockouts. Beating an unranked fighter in Eddie Wineland should not give a top 15 ranking.
No, yeah. I don't think he should be. He's ranked right above Marib Devolishvili, who's ranked 15th.
Yeah.
And Devolishvili's fought much higher level of competition. Now, I like Sean O'Malley. I'm a fan of his.
Same.
I love the personality and love all that stuff. Before we get into like the actual fight details, we
got to be real though. I like Sean O'Malley too. I'm a fan. You like Sean O'Malley too. You're a fan. So what we say is just probably us being real when we get into it.
Yeah. So Sean O'Malley, he's an American. He's 12-0, 25 years old, 5 feet 11 inches tall, 4-0 in the UFC, not including his first round win, knockout win on Dana White's Contender Series, which, if you want to talk about a weakness that we saw a weakness there on Dana White's Contender Series when it comes to grappling. He was able to get back to his feet and knock this dude out with a beautiful look, throw a punch, knock him out, and it was nice. Like you said, coming off that first round knockout to Eddie Wineland. Going against Marlon Vera from Ecuador, Marlon Vera is 17-6. 17-6-1. He's 27 years old, 5 feet 8 inches tall. He's 9-5 in the UFC, 5-1 in his last 6 fights. Coming off of a decision loss to Yadong Song.
It was a fight of the night, by the way.
Fight of the night.
It did win fight of the night bonus.
He knocked out Nolan Hernandez, and then he submitted Andre Ewell as well.
Yeah.
And then he also has that submission win over Guido Canetti.
Knocked out Frankie Sainz.
So, yeah, I mean, you look at the competition level, he's definitely got good competition there. He competed on Tough Latin America, where he won his first fight. And then he was ultimately pulled off of the show because he had a skin infection. That skin infection prevented him from being able to finish the show. He does have the black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has 7 submission wins, 5 knockouts, and 3 decisions.
Sean O'Malley's riding a hype train right now.
Yeah.
And his rise is almost similar to Conor McGregor's.
Yeah, I mean...
It's almost similar to the way he's building his popularity. He's knocking people out.
Well, I think it's a little bit different. I think what he brings to it... I think it's a little bit different because I think what he brings to it is he brings the youth and the freshness of the younger generation. Like, he's doing a really good job of tapping into that audience. The way he's utilizing social media, the videos he's putting out there, the way he's breaking down his fights afterwards, and the things that he's really doing as far as his personality, his look, and his appearance. He's really trying to tap into that younger generation. And, let's be real here. That's the biggest consumer market. If you want people to start becoming fans of yours for life, get them when they're young. Make them fans for life. And the way that Sean O'Malley's done it is he's made himself fresh and young to those guys. Conor McGregor had a very meteoric rise. And Sean O'Malley is having, as far as this is the comparison I think you're talking about, the rise and how they're doing it.
Just the way in the UFC, the way that they're being promoted, the way that they're being pushed.
And then the way that they're keeping them away from wrestlers.
The way that they're trying to avoid grapplers with them. They're giving them, these fights that they can win. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just one of those things.
This is his big test, though. But you also have to look. Conor McGregor, when we were looking at his record early on, you could say that. But then you look at a lot of those guys that he beat on the way to that title fight, to those title fights. Those guys are all fighting for titles now.
Yeah. Max Holloway was the champ at 145.
Diamond Poirier.
People were considering Max the GOAT during his run, which is weird. I guess you could say it's probably warranted given, how many times he defended it, and Conor never defended it. But Dustin Poirier, who's been on the fringe of the 155 title there.
And he beat these guys before they ever even got to the title spot or title shot.
DP is a grappler. I mean, he likes to stand and bang, but he can grapple.
He's not really a grappler. He's a striker who knows how to grapple. We'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a black belt.
So, yeah.
And it's not like a fake black belt.
Black belts, though, like just because you have it doesn't mean you can use it in a fight.
So, but either way, when we get back to Sean O'Malley, that knockout of Eddie Wineland was so pretty because he set it up with the feint right uppercut, feinted his left, and then just came right over the top of the right and just. Yeah. Nobody's ever knocked Eddie Wineland out like that. Eddie Wineland has some TKO losses, but he's never been put to sleep like that.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
It was beautiful.
It was phenomenal. Now, one thing I don't think a lot of people know about Sean is he does have a purple belt in BJJ.
Yep.
And I think, so he shows he's still working a little bit on the ground.
Well, he has 2 submission wins on his record as well.
He also has, you have to go back to his amateur days for this. His only 2 losses in his entire MMA career, amateur and pros, were submission losses.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is something to note. Now, this, I think we both agree, is probably the toughest test that he's fought in the UFC so far.
Yeah.
So, Marlon Chito Vera, he's an extremely well-rounded fighter.
Very well-rounded.
He can go to the ground.
And he's a super exciting fighter.
He is.
He's a high-pressure fighter.
And he has one hell of a chin. He's never been knocked out. All of his losses he's never been finished. All of his losses have come by decision.
Yeah. So this fight right here, I'm just going to throw this out there before you even announce it. Fight of the night, right here. Fight of the night.
We'll give him the fight of the night alert.
I'm telling you, and if you don't have it, I mean, you're crazy. You look at Sean O'Malley, the last 3 fights that he's been in, he's either won a Performance of the Night or a Fight of the Night award. He comes out to put on a show.
I think we're going to get a Performance of the Night for sure.
Marlon Chito Vera, similar. He comes out winning awards for Fight of the Nights and for Performance of the Nights because he goes out there, he's a high-action fighter. This fight right here it
has all the makings for it.
It's got to be,
And Vera is a BJJ black belt. Mm-hmm. So like I was trying to say, he's extremely well-rounded. And he just went to a Fight of the Night and a decision loss to Yadong Song.
Oh, did you just hear that? Fight of the Night?
Yeah. Who, by the way, in my opinion, is a better prospect than Sean O'Malley. Yadong Song's only 22 years old, and he is looking phenomenal.
Yeah.
And his experience, I think he already has like 30-something fights, and he's only 22 years old. Something close. I don't remember his record, but he's got a pretty crazy thing. But I do like Yadong Song a lot.
Oh yeah.
So when it comes to it, it was a really, really hard fight for me to pick because I think the odds are absolutely insane. They've got Sean O'Malley as a -330 favorite and Marlon Vera as a +260 favorite. That's asinine.
I might be throwing some money on that one.
I would throw money on that one if I was a gambling man, but I don't bet.
Regardless of what my pick is, I might throw money on
that. Marlon Vera at +260 is ridiculous. Yeah. This fight is so much closer than that. And honestly, I feel like Vera should probably even be favored in this fight.
I think Marlon Vera should definitely be the favorite in this fight. I think that he's done more in the UFC to warrant it.
He's fought better competition throughout his career.
Yeah, the ranking of number 14 is probably what's swaying it in the popularity.
Yeah.
It's like we talked about with that popularity. A lot of people know who Sugar Sean O'Malley is. Mm-hmm. And while Marlon Vera has been around for a while, there's not a lot of people outside of the real hardcores that know who he is. He doesn't have that face that you can just see on the street and people are like, oh, I remember you, I know you. Whereas Sean O'Malley's got his YouTube social media going on. He's got his MMA. He's got his Instagram. He's got all this other stuff that's really blowing up.
He's got a business now that he started a clothing line. So.
And, people know him outside of fighting already.
Yeah.
Plus, he's making himself a big name in the weed business, too.
Yeah, so it's
in the weed industry. I don't know about business, but...
Like I said, so this fight was extremely difficult to pick because I really, really like Sean. I like, the hype behind him. I like a lot of the things that he's doing. He's doing it right. This is his toughest test. Yeah. And I think Marlon Vera is the better fighter. So for me, I'm going to make an unpopular pick here because, like I said, I think Vera should be favored.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
I think he should be. And I actually think he's going to win this fight.
I would say based off of what Vera's done, he should definitely be the favorite. I just like the way that Sean O'Malley strikes.
His striking's super fun.
His striking is very accurate.
Yeah.
The thing that he's got to worry about, though, is he has a huge hole on his ground game.
Not only that, if you look at his legs, Vera throws these really strong leg kicks. Sean's got real long, lanky legs, and he kind of gets that karate stance going sometimes where he has his left leg forward.
Really far forward.
Vera's going to eat that alive.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out ultimately. What's cool about this is, so every once in a while in a fighter's career, there's a big test put in front of him. Mm-hmm. You just had that with Edmund Shabazian.
Yep.
He just had his big test put in front of him. He failed. Ricky Simone had that with Uriah Faber. He failed.
Yeah, and I think that one was mostly due to
Nerves. Now, right now, with Sean O'Malley, we have that versus Marlon Vera. Mm-hmm. So, will he be one of the guys that rises to the occasion?
Will the cream rise to the top?
It's not butter.
You don't know the that reference, do you?
No.
That's the Macho Man Randy Savage. Fuck. Oh, yeah. During one of his, I think it was a WCW promo, one of his early day promos.
When he was really high on cocaine?
Probably.
Anyway, so I'm sticking with the striking for Sean O'Malley, and I think he's going to get the knockout in round 2.
See, I just don't see the knockout coming. Yadong Song hits hard, and Vera ate some very hard shots from Song. You know, Vera's never been knocked out, and Yadong has hit him hard. He's eaten some hard shots from other fighters too, but Yadong hits hard, and he couldn't knock out Vera.
Yeah.
So I just don't know that Sean O'Malley's going to be able to knock out Vera, and I think that Vera's going to eat that leg apart in the first round, probably a little bit in the second round too, and I think eventually Vera's going to want to get this down. I think he does get this down. I think he's going to surprise people with it.
I think that that's the way to go.
I think you're going to see Marlon Vera with a round 2 submission.
Perfect. Well, let's see what happens there. I do know that O'Malley says he's been working on his ground game quite a bit, and he's excited to show it off.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who say that, and then you see them out there, or they say they're working on their weakness, and then they come out there, and it's not really much better than they thought.
Maybe they are working on it, but when you face a guy that's been doing it forever,
it's different.
it's not the same.
It's just different. Yeah. But that's going to be a really exciting fight. This is the rubber match. You have the champion, Stipe Miocic, going against the number 1 contender, the former 205-pound champion, the former heavyweight champion, Daniel D.C. Cormier, at 265 pounds for the heavyweight title. Right now, these guys are 1-1 against each other. In the first round, Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe in the first round. And in the second fight, Stipe Miocic knocked out Daniel Cormier in the 4th round. So they've had some rounds with each other at this point. They've had 5 rounds total, back and forth. They've done a full title fight. Both of them have come out on top. Really excited about it. Stipe Miocic, he is currently the champion, with him being the one to win last time. Mm-hmm. He's an American. He's 19-3, 37 years old, 6 feet 4 inches tall, 13-3 in the UFC. He did avenge 2 of those losses. One was to DC. He got the belt back. And the other one was to JDS. Yep. So he lost a decision to Junior Dos Santos, and then he came back to knock him out in the first round in their second fight, and that was a title defense for him. Mm-hmm. So if you go down to Daniel Cormier, like we said, he's the former 205-pound champion, the former 265-pound champion. Daniel Cormier, he has a record of 22 wins, 2 losses, and 1 no contest. Really, that no contest is a loss to John Jones. He lost by a head kick in round 3, but John Jones failed for steroids, and that was overturned to a no contest. Daniel Cormier, he's 41 years old. He's 5 feet 11 inches tall, and he's 10-2 in the UFC, coming off of that round 2 loss to Stipe. What do you think about this fight?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we've seen this fight twice now, right?
Yep.
What was the theme in both fights?
Eyes, fingers.
Eye pokes.
Yeah.
DC, for some reason, took a page out of John Jones' book and decided that eye pokes were the way to go.
He wants to reach for your face with his fingers out like that.
In the first fight, there was a really, really bad eye poke.
before
that led to a DC knocking out Stipe. So I mean, there's that. So it's kind of a tainted win. Then you look at the second fight. Even though Stipe was able to pull through and get that knockout eventually, he got poked in the eyes multiple times throughout that fight.
Yeah, and how many times did the ref warn him about that?
Throughout the whole fight. He's just keep your fingers in, keep your fingers in, keep your fingers in. And so, I mean, we're gonna see, if that's the theme in this fight as well.
Yeah.
Because the eye pokes will play a role in it. Even though Stipe was able to overcome last time, he's got to be able to overcome again because he's going to get poked in the eyes again.
Yep.
I just don't see how he doesn't get poked in the eyes again unless DC does what he says he's going to do, because he told Stipe to bring his wrestling shoes. And they are fighting in the smaller cage, which has been proven to be better for wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, it's less cutting off the distance. You get to close the distance faster. You can pressure him to the cage faster. If you're a guy who wants to circle and stay away, and actually Stipe did try to petition for the bigger cage, but they shut it down. Which, as the champion, this is one of the things that you should have a little bit of control over. In boxing, you have control over a lot of those different type of things. The gloves, different things. The refs, the judges, all sorts of different things you have a lot more control of as a fighter in boxing. Having the ability to say, hey, you know what? This is a championship fight. I want to fight in a full-size cage. That shouldn't even be a problem.
No.
Especially considering there's no fans around.
Exactly.
They just don't want to do the work to set it up or move it or transport it. And they're making millions of dollars off of this. I think it's a little bit ridiculous that small of a request couldn't be handled.
Yeah.
Especially coming from your champion.
Right.
He could choose to sit out and wait or do something different.
Yeah.
But he's fighting. So that, like you're saying, that plays into favor for Daniel Cormier.
No, and it is important to note that Stipe was a D1 wrestler as well.
Yes.
He's just not Olympic level that
he
Cormier
wrestled
was.
he wrestled in Cleveland. He wasn't an Oklahoma State guy.
No.
Like DC. So different levels. What I will say, though, this is my biggest thing going into this right now. Daniel Cormier, throughout the history of his combat sports career, he's always come up short in the biggest moments of his careers. Mm-hmm. So he beat Stipe the first time.
Yep.
He lost the last time. This may be a retirement fight for him. This is a retirement fight for him.
He already said win or lose, he's retiring after this fight.
Yeah, but how many times have fighters said that they're going to retire and then not retire or come back and retire? But so he may retire.
Luke Rockhold just came back.
Luke Rockhold, see?
But Luke Rockhold's not 41, is he?
I don't know. But, the truth is, I don't think that Daniel Cormier will want to retire with that bad taste in his mouth. But I'll get back to it. So he's lost in all those big moments. He lost in the D1 national championships to Cael Sanderson. He lost in the Olympics. He came up short there. He came up short to John Jones. And these are all like the most important things. Winning the title might be super important to him. But becoming a national champion and wrestler, one of the most important things to him. Becoming an Olympic champion, one of the most important things. You got to think, he was the Olympic team captain. Mm-hmm. And beating John Jones, more so than winning that 205 belt, beating John Jones was probably more important to him than winning that belt.
Yeah, I think if he had a chance to fight John again, he would, just to try to get that win.
Oh, he would. He totally would. So he's fallen short in what I would say are the biggest moments of his MMA career. That might play effect into this.
Yeah, it definitely could. So, I mean, we're gonna ultimately find out again. I think if DC does win, but he pokes Stipe in the eyes again, it's going to be a tainted win. It's going to be another one, and he'll never be able to live it down. No one will consider him the winner of that fight if he wins via eye pokes again.
I think it would depend on how the eye poke plays into it. If it's something like the first one where the eye poke happens and then the knockout happens right after it. Yeah, if it happens like in the first round and then he knocks him out in the fifth round, you can't really blame that. Yeah. If he wins a close decision, maybe because he took that first round with an eye poke and then was able to out grapple him and
the rest of the fight.
Whatever. Things like that might take into effect, but a knockout in the fifth round after an eye poke in the first round, I would say.
It also depends though, because if we get to the fifth round,
he
might have poked him in the eyes throughout the second, the third, and the fourth. He did in that other fight.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It would have to depend. If it was something from the first round, it wouldn't matter. If it was a consecutive boom, 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 back-to-back thing. But if it's like the last one,
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously that's going to make people upset, and that's going to be tainted forever.
Yeah, I think either way, if he pokes him in the eyes again, he's never going to live that down, because that's all anybody talks about right now. If you go on any forums, go on any website, on Facebook, in the comments, anywhere, all everybody talks about is they're calling him, does Stipe bring in goggles? Does he get to wear goggles for this fight? And yada, yada, yada. That's all anybody talks about. So if it happens again, DC is never going to be able to live it down, whether it affects, in the first round or the last round.
DC's got a lot of things he's never going to be able to live down. He's one of the most memeable fighters out there, with his cry face, with his
chicken commercial.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he's got a lot of things in life that he's going to have to deal with forever. But when you've made as much money as he has,
yeah,
and you've done things he's done, oh well.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I'm really excited about it. These guys are two legends of the sport right now. You have the greatest heavyweight champion right now in Stipe Miocic versus the double champ, one of the few double champs, and Daniel Cormier. Pretty excited. They both got a ton of knockouts on their record. Stipe's knocked out DC, JDS, Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum, Andre Arlovski, and Mark Hunt.
Yeah.
He has 14 total knockouts on his record. Like we said, he comes from a boxing background. He was the Cleveland Golden Glove boxing champion. He has the most successful heavyweight defenses, and he has the most strikes landed in a heavyweight fight. And that's 361 punches in one fight.
It's crazy.
He also has the most heavyweight post-fight bonuses, with 9 post-fight bonuses, partially because he knocks people out.
Right.
But I'm overall super excited about this. DC, he's got a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He did win that Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix that had a ton of killers in it. Mm-hmm. That was a pretty big win for him. If DC wasn't such a nice guy to his teammates, Kane, he probably could have potentially put himself in position to be the greatest heavyweight of all time.
Could have, but I think that because he dropped down to 205, and he fought the majority of his UFC fights at 205, I don't see him being the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time.
I don't see him being the greatest UFC heavyweight. I don't see him being anywhere in the GOAT conversation at all.
Yeah,
I really get frustrated when people put him in that conversation.
Yeah.
The champ, yes, he is a 205-pound champ. But let's be realistic about why he's a 205-pound champ.
He would have never won it if John never got suspended.
Never. He would have never won it. So that is almost like a silver medal in the NCAA National Championship tournament, right? He lost 10 times in his career as a wrestler in the D1 tournament, or in D1. Competing in the D1s, he only lost 10 times. He lost to one guy 6 times. Cael Sanderson.
Yeah.
Cael Sanderson's a fantastic wrestler. DC's just run into these situations where for some reason he's had potential GOATs right there at his weight class every time he's competing.
Yeah, that's a hard out right there, man.
Yeah, and so he's got this thing to him, and I guarantee you it's a mental thing to him that causes him problems because he's come up second so many times, time after time after time after time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to play effect into it this time. I don't think he's going to be in bad shape. I just think that second place curse is going to continue on with him. And I think Stipe knocks him out in round 3.
Yeah, so for me, Stipe was winning the first fight up until the eye poke, was winning the second fight even with all the eye pokes, and I think he's going to win the third fight too. But I have him knocking him out in round 2.
Round 2, all right. So, hey, that's our picks then.
Yeah, buddy.
Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Press that bell button down at the bottom there so that you actually get notified when our videos come out. I'm not sure why they make you subscribe if you don't even get notified from our videos without the bell. But press the bell button.
Yeah, push the like button, push the subscribe button.
Yeah.
Push all 3 of them. It takes you half a second.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. You're done.
So,
yeah.
All right, Jake, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, man. Let's get out of here.